Welcome to the Amicable Divorce Network podcast. My name is Tracy Ann Moore Grant, and I'm the founder of the Amicable Divorce Network. Our podcast is here to educate those before, during, and after divorce, as well as divorce professionals, about all of the issues that impact a family law case. We are here to educate you about difficult topics, provide you new information, and also give solutions for how to navigate all of the issues in family law and still bring your family law case to an efficient conclusion. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Amicable Divorce Network podcast. I'm Tracy Ann Moore Grant, founder of the Amicable Divorce Network, and I am your host today for the podcast. And I am joined by Lora Cheadle, and she is a betrayal and recovery expert. We are going to do a deep dive today on if you have been betrayed in a relationship and some actionable steps that you can take to move through that pain. She is also a recovering attorney. And we see a lot of people in the space of helping people through family law that have stepped away from the practice of law and have pivoted into something that they find more direct and meaningful. And that's exactly what Lora has done here as well. Lora, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
So I probably butchered introducing you to everybody a little bit. Tell people exactly who you are and what your niche is in helping people.
Yeah, absolutely. And you did a fabulous job, by the way. What I do is I work with people on healing the betrayal wound, because betrayal is different than grief. It's different than loss. It's different than feeling sad or anxious. So what I do is I really take a deep dive on giving people tools, strategies, solutions for identifying when they are feeling betrayed, or if they have been betrayed, such as an infidelity or financial betrayal, helping them identify, recover, and heal so they can move forward.
I think that's really important. The first step being identify. Yeah. So talk about that. That's not something that we hear a lot. We hear about how to move forward and how to heal, but let's talk about step one, identify. What does that entail?
Yeah, absolutely. Betrayal, if you look at the definition, it's the breaking of an expectation that has ruptured your view of yourself or your marriage or the world. And what that does is it impacts your identity. It's not just, oh, I'm really sad they didn't have chocolate ice cream and I really wanted chocolate ice cream. It disrupts who you think you are. Most of us were raised to think if we do things, we're going to win. If we're a good partner, our marriage is going to last. And when the marriage doesn't last, we internalize and we feel like, but wait, I did everything right. I didn't sign up for this. What did I do wrong? That's betrayal.
Right. That's very interesting. And you touched on grief a little bit. How can somebody who's experiencing these wide variety of emotions that people go through in a divorce action, how would you differentiate betrayal from grief?
Love that question. Grief is a normal emotion that you will feel going through the divorce. You will grieve the loss of the relationship. You will grieve the loss of all of these different things. And with grief, even though we don't want to feel it, usually the best way through grief is through grief. To allow ourselves the opportunity to cry, to vent, to talk to a professional, to trusted friends, and to move through that grief. Whereas with betrayal, we tend to keep telling that story. We want to tell everybody, guess what he did to me? And you wouldn't believe what happened. And I did this and he did this. And that becomes a story. And we become identified as the victim. And it's different. We can be victimized, but we don't have to own the identity of a victim. And that's what makes grief different than betrayal.
Very interesting. A mind shift in how you're thinking about things. Yes. You had mentioned that there were different ways that people could be betrayed. Let's break those down. I think everybody can immediately identify infidelity. It is a very common cause of divorce and breakup, happens far too much, but is incredibly common. In addition to infidelity, what are the other forms of betrayal that you see in family law?
Yeah, financial betrayal is a big one, where somebody is in control of the finances and they're telling you one thing and another thing is happening. Yes, we're saving. Yes, we're investing, but really they're gambling the money away, or really they're siphoning it off into some other account or spending it on somebody else. So that's financial betrayal. But there's also just the betrayal in terms of emotional connectivity. Sometimes we think we're in this connected, committed, intimate relationship, but really our partners are getting their emotional needs met somewhere else. It's not a physical infidelity, but it's definitely an emotional betrayal.
Yeah, definitely. Very difficult emotions for a family law professional to deal with. I always tell people I'm a lawyer. I'm not a mental health professional, also not a financial professional. And so it's important to use the right tool for the problem, so to speak. So if somebody is experiencing these emotions, how do you step into that space and that situation and help the person who's going through the divorce?
Yeah. And first of all, thank you for making that clarification, because we do need the right professional to solve us. Yeah, to meet the right needs. What I do is I've been there. First of all, I was betrayed by my husband. I absolutely understand what it's like. What I do is I meet people where they're at. Are you in the rage state? Are you in the grief state? Let me give you some tools for processing those emotions, because those emotions run so high, they overwhelm you. They absolutely overwhelm your body. So sometimes it's just getting that pain through you. Sometimes it's more of a cognitive restructuring of the story and reclaiming the narrative. Sometimes it's using movement to help process, or breath work, or yoga. Sometimes it's finding the right attorney and figuring out your path of what to do next. We're all in different places at the same time. And that's really my zone of genius, is meeting people where they're at and figuring out what is your most immediate next step to feeling better.
Gotcha. And so some of the things that you were touching on are the psychological stages of divorce, and people go through them differently.
Yes.
Some people go through them very fast. Some people maybe don't hit all of the stages. And then sometimes people really linger in one phase and just marinate. And what I find is if people get really stuck in that grief and rage stage, either one, that the decision making and moving your case forward is almost impossible and is altered, because the emotional aspect is really clouding any sort of logic decision making. It really is more about finding some sort of emotional justice or emotional vindication, something that makes them, they think will make them feel better. And so it is important to get people really through the stages for themselves.
Yeah. And what I really want listeners to know on that is all humans, when triggered, go into a state of fight, flight, or freeze. All of us. It's not something we can think our way out of or practice our way out of. It doesn't make us emotionally weak. When we're threatened, we go into fight, flight, or freeze. When we go into fight, flight, or freeze, we leave the prefrontal cortex and we go back into the amygdala. We can't think. We literally can't think. So I love what you said. People get stuck. They can't make decisions. No, they can't. So it's about recognizing I'm in that state and I can't get myself back. Here are some of the tools that I know that can help me reclaim my brain. Here are some of the people that I can reach out to help me reclaim my brain, so I can start thinking, so I can start processing, and so I can start making decisions and moving forward.
Yeah, I've found people in this stage often have different expectations for the process. I had somebody one time who wanted the other spouse to issue a written and public apology for things, which isn't a legal result really that we ever deal with. So it was really squarely based on what they felt they needed to emotionally move forward. So I think one of the things that we definitely are aligned on is that the family law litigation system is really not the best place to resolve or expect these types of issues to be resolved. And so what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Legal remedies are legal remedies. And yes, we would all love that TV courtroom scenario where the spouse is pointed out and everybody goes, oh my gosh. And we are held up as this pillar of whatever it is, perfection, strength, but that doesn't happen. It's important to realize the legal system is to resolve legal issues, to get you divorced, to get whether it's custody or maintenance or division of assets. That's one bucket. A whole other bucket is therapy. Therapy looks to the past and it helps you resolve things in the past. You can uncover childhood wounds. You can figure out the past. Coaching, what I do is future oriented. Let me help you make sense of the past, but use it to create a new future. How do you want to be? Who do you want to show up as? What are the things that you need? That's what coaching is about. That's what I do. And I love that you mentioned like that public apology. Sometimes I work with individuals, sometimes I work with couples, because sometimes that's what people need is somebody to mediate the interpersonal aspects of this separation. Because most people don't want a divisive divorce. Most people, you fell in love with this person. You had some sort of a life with this person. How can we come together, each get our needs met, and move forward in a way that really lets us be our best selves going forward?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think when people are really trying to use the legal system for an emotional result or healing, they will be very disappointed and they will spend a lot of money. And sometimes professionals don't set realistic expectations because unfortunately, that's how lawyers make money, by the hour. The more conflict, the better. And our organization is vetted for having professionals who do not do that. But certainly people will come across a high conflict attorney in the wild who isn't going to sit them down and say, this isn't a good use of your time. The judge isn't going to offer this type of remedy. If you want to go down this road, it's going to take 18 months. It's going to take $45,000 range, all of these different things. And so people just get so focused on the day in court that for over 95% of people never happens. Most people resolve their case between themselves. And so preparing for that Perry Mason moment, you're going to be disappointed. It's not going to happen for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing. I love what your organization does. I love the philosophy behind that because yes, the attorney's role is to zealously advocate on behalf of their client. But what is truly in the best interest of your client? Is the best interest of your client dragging out this divorce for 5 years and spending down both of your savings and having such a contentious outcome that you and your ex can never speak and that your children are dragged through it?
No.
Not usually in anybody's best interest. So I really appreciate what you do.
Oh, thank you so much. We're very proud of our ability to help people and for all of our professionals that are really dedicated to doing that. They're all vetted for being resolution focused and having fair billing practices, which you just don't see a lot of out there in the family law community. To circle back on your role as a coach, I always want people to really understand. So I am an attorney, a lawyer. So if I have a client and I recommend to them to work with you as a coach, explain to perhaps a client listening how you fit in on the team and what your role is compared to what I would be doing as their lawyer.
Yeah, absolutely. I am here for emotional support. I am the wise older sister. I am the best friend who has been there, done that. I am a former attorney, so I can help you make sense of what was my lawyer saying around this. I don't understand this process. I can help you make sense of what's going on, but I can meet your emotional needs. I can give you some tools. I can give you some strategies. We can talk it through. One of the things that I offer my clients is 24/7 access to me through an app. So when you're in those headspace moments of, oh my gosh, what's going on? I don't understand this. And what's going to happen? And what if I'm doing the wrong thing? And when you're having those moments where you're spinning out of control, I will listen to you. I will talk you off the ledge. I will explain to you what's going on. I will help you refocus on your goal. Let's look at the long-term goal. Who are you? What do you want? Let's focus on that and let's figure out how to get through this maze because it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
I
think it's also very good to have somebody who is focusing a client on them using the correct tool for the problem. Because if you're able to talk to them and say, this is actually an issue you should really tell your therapist about, you should really work through this, as opposed to it being a legal problem. If this is an
Right.
emotional challenge, it's really important to get people routed in the right way, because often if I suggest to a client, I really think that we should get a therapist involved, and think they're very insulted by that. They think that I'm saying that they are crazy. And that just simply isn't the case. I recommend therapy in every single case when you're going through a life change of a divorce, just to, at a minimum, touch base. How are you doing? What do you need to do to move forward? What can you do for your kids? But sometimes it really helps people not repeat patterns. But it's really important to have somebody to guide them and say, this is a legal problem. This is maybe a financial problem. Maybe you need a financial advisor to figure out about this asset here. And so you stop worrying about it. So to get people pointed in the right direction, because where we see so much time wasted and money wasted is where people are using the wrong tool for the problem. You're trying to use litigation to solve an emotional problem, and it just doesn't play out that way. And then people are so upset at the end. I spent all this money and I didn't get what I needed. And it went down the wrong road there with how you were approaching that. So that's really helpful to hear.
Yeah.
One thing that we really like at the network is that we're very transparent about costs. And so you obviously provide a service and you are paid for that. So how much do you get paid for your services as part of a divorce team?
Yeah, absolutely. My package is a $2,700 package. That's a 6-month package. We meet in person, or I mean on Zoom, for an hour and a half every single month. You have 24/7 access to me through the Voxer app, and you get weekly emails and support. If you truly don't think you need 6 months, or you want to sample it first, I also do hourly for $300 an hour, and we can meet once, or we can meet as many times as you want.
That's great. So when you say that people are reaching out to you on an app, please don't tell me that you are getting an alert at 3 o'clock in the morning and you are waking up
No.
and dealing with that. I want to make sure that you're getting your rest. So tell us a little bit more about this app and how it works.
Yeah, and how it's called Voxer. It's a walkie-talkie style app. I encourage people to talk into it in the moment, because we all know how that is, where we're like, I've got this need now. And if it's at 3 a.m. for you, wonderful, talk into it, preserve all of that. Because there's nothing worse than seeing your coach like a week later and being like, I don't know, I was all keyed up over something, but I can't remember now. It's a place to memorialize and to record and to get all of that out of you, so it's not in you.
Yeah.
I check it at the end of the day every day, and I respond at the end of the day every day. But no, I have my boundaries around that, but it's free for you. So you never have to feel like I'm in an anxiety spiral. I'm trapped now. Get it out now.
I think that's a really great tool, because the emotion is being filtered towards you, and you have been placed on the team for assistance. It's not being put at the other side, the other spouse or the attorney, who's going to probably charge as much to receive that information as possible.
Yeah.
And if you send it to the other spouse, may not be well received, could get you into some legal trouble, because we always have that advice of, if you're really upset, draft the email, but do not send it.
Yes.
So by sending to you this information and knowing she's not going to get back to me until the end of the day, but I am going to hear something, gives them an opportunity to calm down from that and not have really made any impulsive decisions in the moment, but they were able to release those feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I have people do sometimes when I hear the message, I'll tell them, go back and re-listen to that message. If that was a friend saying that to you, you would know how to advise them. How would you advise yourself?
Yeah.
And it empowers people to, like that. Yes, I can release it and I can make a decision.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I had a client one time, this question has always stuck with me, and you touched on it, but we were going over the different options on what she could do in a particular divorce situation, pros and cons here and there. And she asked me, she said, what would you tell your best friend to do? And I was like, all right, that's a little bit different of a question, isn't it? And be your own best friend, right? Take a step back and be like, if this was my best friend, Betty, who said all this, what best advice would I give Betty to help her? And so it's a really great way for people to get focused on that. So for people listening, betrayal is a huge part of divorces. What would you tell them as your preliminary, like number one tip, if they are dealing with betrayal? What can you tell them to do as a first step?
Yeah. When I went through it, I wish somebody would have told this to me. Slow down. Every nerve in my body was on fire, and I wanted to call and I wanted to do, and felt like I needed to decide. Slow down. You hold all the cards, believe it or not. Betrayal is a huge initiation into this next chapter of your life that can be absolutely amazing if you slow down and recognize what is happening, recognize that you have time to decide. There's some caveats. If there's some safety issues, that's different.
Right.
But when you find out, you don't have to file right now. You can talk to people, you can get help, you can read books, you can listen to podcasts. Slow down. Let the grief move through you, and then you can decide.
Yeah, I see all the time where people are putting, particularly on Facebook, I am looking for the biggest bulldog lawyer to stick it to my husband or wife, blah, blah, blah. And I don't even respond to those posts to even float my information out there or anything like that, because it is such a bad place to be making decisions from. Because if asked, is that the best decision for me emotionally? Is that the best decision for my pocketbook? Hiring that type of attorney, 99% of the time, the answer is no. So take a deep breath. Get some referrals. I usually tell people to meet with 3 different professionals and see what their different plans are, which one suits you the best and feels the most comfortable, which one feels like the best fit for you personality-wise. You don't just have to go into the big office and hire the biggest person you can find. That usually is not the best solve for a family. That's a great advice. Take a deep breath, slow down, because they're big decisions. Choosing how to get divorced, whether it's uncontested, amicable, or contested, is really going to route the entire family, children, finances for potentially a long time. So it's a careful decision to make.
Yeah.
So for people who are listening and they think they need your services and this sounds great to them and they love it, what is the best way for them to reach you?
The best way for them to reach me is to go to my website, and it's loracheadle.com. And I spell Lora, Lora, which is a different spelling. But from there, you can find all your ways of connecting with me.
Wonderful. And if you're driving and you're like, I just couldn't write that down, come back to this episode and look in the show notes, and you will see all of her contact information there so that you can access it later or share with your best friend who might be facing this type of situation. Lora, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your expertise and your passion for helping people through this difficult time.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely.
If you're listening, be sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you ever need more information to reach out to any of our professionals, please visit us at amicableddivorcenetwork.com.